These are tonight's top stories. Deputy PM condemns recent shooting, thanks public for support. PM Harris says reconstruction of Coast Guard's barracks is advancing well, and Education Minister says learning through play is fundamental to a child's development. The details on these stories and more when we come back. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Channel 5 newscast. I am Shaira Flanders. Nationally, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Education, Youth, Sports and Culture, the Honorable Sean Richards, today expressed his gratitude for the outpouring of concern for him and his family in the wake of the pre-dawn shooting incident on Friday, March 10th at his home in Crab Hill, Sandy Point by an unknown assailant or assailants. Minister Richards' family and his vehicle were shot at in the early hours of the morning. He emphasized that he was touched by the strong support of community residents and citizens around the Federation and further afield. I wish to express my profound gratitude and that of my family for the numerous calls and messages of encouragement and support in light of this unfortunate incident, Minister Richards said. He added, quote, I wish to assure the public that my family and I are safe, and we are confident that the law enforcement agencies will handle the matter through its logical conclusion within the limits of the law. Minister Richards added that this incident will not prevent him or his family from going about their normal routines. Minister Richards is the parliamentary representative for Constituency 5, Sandy Point and Fig Tree, and has always resided in that community. At about 3:15 a.m. on Friday, an unknown assailant fired a number of gunshots at the residence and vehicle of the Deputy Prime Minister. One person is currently in custody assisting with investigations. Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, says the reconstruction of the St. Kitts Nevis Defence Force or SKNDF Coast Guard's barracks is advancing well. He made the update while speaking at his monthly press conference at government headquarters on Thursday.
Since January 9, 2017, the reconstruction of the Coast Guard barracks commenced in earnest. Work is advancing well and is expected to be completed during the last quarter of 2017.
Prime Minister Harris also noted that the labor source for this project will consist of members from the SKNDF Coast Guards.
I gather the Coast Guard has very competent people with some technical skills, and they are, in fact, the primary labor source for the construction activity that is taking place there. And equally important, they are being assisted by Her Majesty's prison.
Dr. Harris revealed that $500,000 have been budgeted for the development of the facility.
We anticipate that we will spend just over $500,000 on this project in materials and subcontracting of certain technical aspects of labor where the case would emerge.
Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. A child's learning facilitated through play is fundamental to his or her development. That is according to Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Education, the Honorable Sean Richards. He said that parents often complain that their children play too much without fully appreciating that playing is a fundamental part of a child's life. He made the comments while speaking at the opening ceremony of the Victoria Road Preschool on Tuesday.
Part of the development of your child is not just about sitting in a classroom and receiving instruction from a teacher, but the overall development of the child involves the child being able to engage in physical activity. When that child engages in physical activity, that child has much to learn. If you have disbeliefs, then think of yourself as a child. Think of some of the skills that you would have learned whilst on the playground, whilst playing with other children.
The minister said that the playground is where many children develop useful negotiating and social skills.
Children also develop their motor skills, climbing trees. They develop reasoning skills because sometimes in playing, of course, they have to engage their own sense of reasoning as to what is the next step involved in this particular activity.
Addressing the parents who attended the opening, the minister said that they should allow their children to play.
I repeat, parents, you will have children who will play. It is part of their development. It is part of their nature. As a matter of fact, I wish that even more of us as adults would engage in play, because perhaps we would have less crime here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Minister of Education, the Honorable Sean K. Richards. After the break, police investigate fatal stabbing and a traffic accident leaves one pedestrian injured. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Officers from the Violent Crimes Unit are investigating a stabbing incident in Taylors that left one person dead. Initial investigations revealed that Ashton Christopher, a 54-year-old resident of Taylors, received a single stab wound to the chest. He died en route to the Joseph N. France General Hospital. The incident occurred sometime after 8 p.m. on Friday, March 10th. One person is in custody. The investigation continues. Meanwhile, the traffic department of the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force is also investigating a traffic accident on Friday, which resulted in the injury and subsequent hospitalization of a pedestrian. According to the police, the pedestrian was crossing the road on Keon Street, pushing a shopping cart when he was struck by motor omnibus Higher 368, which was traveling from east to west toward the cemetery area. ZIZ News was informed that the driver of the bus told the police that due to the glare of the sun, he did not see the pedestrian crossing the road and he seemed to appear out of nowhere. The emergency medical services transported the injured pedestrian to the Joseph N. France General Hospital for treatment. The nature of the injuries remain unclear. The investigation into this accident continues. Coming up in Barbados, women are attempting to break the glass ceiling for women in the tourism industry. Stay tuned. Welcome back. General Secretary of the Barbados Workers Union, Tony Moore, says there is a perception that there is a glass ceiling for women in the tourism industry. We hear more in this Nation News Barbados report.
General Secretary of the Barbados Workers Union, Tony Moore, says there is a perception in the tourism industry that women are being stymied. She raised the issue on Wednesday as she addressed the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association's first quarterly general meeting at Hilton Barbados.
So far, you can do the room service, you can be front office, you can be back office accounts clerk, you can be bartender, you can be, but access to management positions, the room goes quiet. There's a ceiling that still needs to be shattered. We support and would promote exchanges where we have people coming in from overseas at these higher levels and teaching us and showing us how it can be done better. But we must not deny that we are willing to learn how to do it better. So after a while, it's okay if they leave and have us transfer our learnings into leadership. Something that stymies productivity and interest among those at lower levels that we want to be driving towards greater productivity.
Ms. Moore also suggested that hoteliers remember the human element when rostering staff.
And one of the things that concern me among hoteliers, and I will identify hoteliers, where we are deciding on issues for hours for workers, for instance, is it is okay for us to determine for workers in a shift arrangement that 8 hours between their shifts, for instance, is an adequate amount of time. But for that mother, for that person involved in care responsibility, who leaves a shift at 11 o'clock to report into a shift the following morning by 7 o'clock. Is that human? It is possible because workers do it. Workers do it because they need a job. They need to survive, but how engaged can they be? How are we facilitating with that work-life balance? Are we allowing people to be able to go home and push the agenda for the next day for the children? By the time you get home, and most workers in the shift arrangement don't even have cars. By the time they get home on a bus after midnight, and have to be on a bus at 5 o'clock to get into work, there's not enough time to get the standard amount of rest. There certainly is not enough time to do that and to push breakfast and lunch in a situation where the extended family support, we have seen that has diminished.
Coming up, Malian refugees face severe food and medicine shortage. We'll have the details when we come back. Malians say they are starting to lose any hope of returning home as violence in their country continues. Al Jazeera's Mohammed Val has the details on that story.
They are queuing for medical care. The makeshift clinic in this camp is small, under-equipped and overwhelmed. Malnutrition and severe weather have made worse the health conditions of Malian refugees here. Medicine is in short supply and so are adequate equipment and qualified doctors. Intekan refugee camp is in the remote desert area of northern Niger. It has about 20,000 refugees. Across the country, the total number is estimated at 60,000. They arrived here in 2012 after fighting began between Malian government forces and armed groups in the north. But what they thought would be a short stay is slowly becoming a permanent situation.
We have no idea when we will return. Whenever we thought we might be about to return, there was a sudden deterioration of security. We have lost any hope.
Not only medicine, but also food and water supplies are scarce here. The World Food Programme and UNHCR say they've had to reduce their aid because they don't have enough money.
We've continued to host more and more Malian refugees, with funds which shrank by 20 to 30% every year. And this may continue as the situation in Mali isn't getting any better and the refugees are not ready to return. This means we now need a new type of funds, what we call development funds. This will allow the refugees to remain in Niger and to be integrated with the local population. So these funds will be used on education, economic activities, etc.
And until that happens, there's almost no economic life or education for Malians in this camp. The makeshift school is overcrowded. The students look miserable. The lack of facilities is clear. The UN's cultural body UNESCO was in charge of this school before it ended its commitment last year. Hundreds of children, especially among older boys, have been left in the streets, turning into easy recruits for armed groups. Mali signed a peace agreement with rebels in the north in 2015. But it still hasn't been implemented. Meanwhile, these refugees are concerned the world might forget about them and the conflict that drove them out of their homeland. Mohammed Fall, Al Jazeera.
Up next in sports, SKNFA technical director commends the under-20 team and Zambia's female boxers battle social norms. Stay tuned. Malians say they are starting to lose any hope of returning home as violence in their country continues. Al Jazeera's Mohammed Val has the details on that story.
They are queuing for medical care. The makeshift clinic in this camp is small, under-equipped and overwhelmed. Malnutrition and severe weather have made worse the health conditions of Malian refugees here. Medicine is in short supply and so are adequate equipment and qualified doctors. Intekan refugee camp is in the remote desert area of northern Niger. It has about 20,000 refugees. Across the country, the total number is estimated at 60,000. They arrived here in 2012 after fighting began between Malian government forces and armed groups in the north. But what they thought would be a short stay is slowly becoming a permanent situation.
We have no idea when we will return. Whenever we thought we might be about to return, there was a sudden deterioration of security. We have lost any hope.
Not only medicine, but also food and water supplies are scarce here. The World Food Programme and UNHCR say they've had to reduce their aid because they don't have enough money.
We've continued to host more and more Malian refugees, with funds which shrank by 20 to 30% every year. And this may continue as the situation in Mali isn't getting any better and the refugees are not ready to return. This means we now need a new type of funds, what we call development funds. This will allow the refugees to remain in Niger and to be integrated with the local population. So these funds will be used on education, economic activities, etc.
And until that happens, there's almost no economic life or education for Malians in this camp. The makeshift school is overcrowded, the students look miserable, the lack of facilities is clear. The UN's cultural body UNESCO was in charge of this school before it ended its commitment last year. Hundreds of children, especially among older boys, have been left in the streets, turning into easy recruits for armed groups. Mali signed a peace agreement with rebels in the north in 2015. But it still hasn't been implemented. Meanwhile, these refugees are concerned the world might forget about them and the conflict that drove them out of their homeland. Mohammed Fall, Al Jazeera.
Up next in sports, SKNFA Technical Director commends the Under-20 team and Zambia's female boxers battled social norms. Stay tuned. Thank you for joining us in sports. Technical Director in the SKNFA, or the St. Kitts Nevis Football Association, Lenny Lake, says he commends the recently returning Under-20 national football team despite not making it to the Caribbean finals after qualifying in the CONCACAF tournament. Lake said the focus should not be on the team's loss, but on their efforts, and advised the persons to use a more realistic view of the team's performance.
We didn't go on to play for the Caribbean finals in terms of the championship. But however, we did enough to get to the final. So the 5 teams that advanced, we could have said St. Kitts was the least in terms of the performance to get to the CONCACAF finals. However, we got there. And after we were grouped with teams like the USA and Panama, and even Haiti, who is the reigning champion, defeating Antigua in the finals 4-0, we knew it was a task. Now, I do believe that one of the things in football you have to be mindful of is being realistic. If you're going by a fifth place team into a tournament in a team with so many good opposition, your realistic objective should be to get there, learn as much from this tournament, and then regroup in the next 2 years to come back. But to go and say you're going to go to the World Cup, I think that very much is unrealistic.
He then commended the team for their efforts in Costa Rica and said the team has set a new standard.
I want to applaud the U20 players for their efforts. They have set the stage for this program, and I'm hoping that the next group that come along, we can prepare them to continue the achievement that these young men would have had in the past weeks in Costa Rica.
Lake also commended the coaches and the coaching staff for their dedication and unwavering support. He said he is grateful for their assistance and expressed that the sacrifices they make are considered quote-unquote priceless. Zambian women are increasingly taking up boxing in part because they are inspired by World Boxing Council bantamweight champion Catherine Fury. Until 2010, women could not register as professional boxers, but now they fill gyms. Al Jazeera's Andy Richardson reports from the capital, Lusaka.
Staying a world champion boxer and hitting top marks in class. It's an unusual one too. Last year, Zambia's Catherine Piri became Africa's first female WBC world title holder. But deciding to finish her high school education while in her 20s has, she says, been just as important. This is an athlete helping to redefine what it is to be a woman in Zambia.
It used to be, us girls, you have to be home doing home chores. Boys, they go to school, they do whatever they want. But this time around, things are changing. Maybe our generation now is changing, whereby girls also, they are given that opportunity to excel in life. What I used to tell myself, say, no, I'm the best, I can do it. If others can do it, I can even do more than others.
Until 2010, women couldn't even register as pro boxers in Zambia. Now, you're as likely to find female as male boxers in the gym here. But Catherine hopes her influence could be more than just a sporting one.
Teenager Alison Bayway is an example of a fighter following Piri's example. Ferocious in the gym with ambitions to win Olympic gold and every bit as committed in the classroom.
In this generation that we have, it's very important for a girl child to be educated. For you to experience more things, you have to go to school so that you can have that knowledge. Yes. Most of the people say that boxing is not a sport of girls, but as for me, I can do much more than what boys can do, what men can actually do.
Piri started boxing as a teenager, inspired by her namesake Esther Piri, an early trailblazer for women's boxing in Zambia. The sport has given her a career in the ring and the confidence to return to school. She now plans to combine boxing with university.
I was sponsored to go back to school because of boxing. My parents never spent any money on me, on my education. Once you invest in education, you never go wrong. You know, I'm a boxer yesterday, but if anything happened, I can develop an injury. What's next? Then my career, I'll go nowhere. But if I have a paper, I can go anywhere in the world.
In the coming weeks, Piri will be defending her world title. But this is a fighter just as focused on making a success of her years beyond boxing. Andy Richardson, Al Jazeera, Lusaka, Zambia.
Patriots quarterback Tom Brady has launched a new vegan meal program inspired by his own strict diet. Here's more.
Tom Brady is notorious for his strict diet. The Patriots quarterback reportedly avoids sugar, white flour, gluten, all fruit entirely, eggplant, mushrooms, peppers, tomatoes, dairy, iodized salt, and olive oil. And now, for $78 a week, you too can enjoy Brady's diet. According to Fortune, Brady has teamed up with plant-based meal kit delivery system Purple Carrot to launch a line called TB12 Performance Meals. You'll get 3 dinners, enough for 2 people, per week. Each plate costs $13 or $78 per week and will be developed without dairy, seafood, eggs, meat, or processed foods.
And when we come back, we'll have another look at the stories that made the headlines. Recapping tonight's top stories, the Deputy PM condemns recent shooting, thanks public for support. PM Harris says reconstruction of Coast Guard's barracks is advancing well. And Education Minister says learning through play is fundamental to a child's development. And finally, earlier this week, residents in a small Canadian town were left shocked after finding out that their tap water had turned bright pink. Here's more on that story.
Residents of Onaway, Canada, were left perplexed when they awoke to find their water supply had been turned a bright pink color after something went wrong at the water treatment plant. Showers, tap water, and toilets were all affected by the strangely colored liquid, which the town council ensured wasn't toxic and simply came as a result of a malfunction which caused potassium permanganate to get into the reservoir. Potassium permanganate, also known as potassium salt, is a chemical disinfectant used to remove iron and hydrogen sulfide from well and wastewater. The Onaway Town Council said that during normal line flushing and filter backwashing, a valve was stuck open, allowing potassium permanganate to get into the sump reservoir.
And that's the end of the ZIZ Channel 5 newscast. Thank you for joining us. I am Shaira Flanders. Have a good one.